Good evening and welcome to S24 Insights. Today, we turn our attention from one of the most important frontiers of Nigeria's democracy, the intersection of gender, conflict, accountability, and development in Northeast Nigeria. In a country where insecurity, displacement, poverty, and governance challenges often dominate headlines, the stories that shape public understanding are frequently told by people far removed from the realities on the ground. Yet some journalists choose a different path. They report from within communities, document lived experiences, amplify marginalized voices, and challenge institutions to do better. Nigeria continues to grapple with complex questions. How do we build communities affected by conflict? How do we ensure women are not merely beneficiaries of development programs, but active participants in decision-making? How do we hold institutions accountable for promises made to vulnerable population? How do we create inclusive governance in regions where humanitarian crises and security challenges persist? These are not merely development questions, they are political questions. They concern power, representation, public accountability, and the future of citizenship. Our guest today operates at the intersection of these issues. She's a freelance journalist, gender advocate, aid worker, and development practitioner from Borno State in Northeast Nigeria. Her work spans advocacy, stakeholder engagement, program management, and journalism focused on gender, education, conflict, and accountability. Today, we explore not only her journey, but also the broader political realities shaping women, governance, media, and conflict-affected communities in Nigeria. Rukayat Idris, welcome to S24 Inside.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you here with a lot of profile.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me once again.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll be moving on quickly to the business of today. We'd like you to take us through your journey, reporting from the front lines of conflict and change.
Yeah.
You come from Borno State. This region has been experiencing some of the most profound social and political transformation.
Yeah.
So how has growing up and working in that environment shaped your understanding of governance and accountability?
All right, so thank you once again for having me.
Thank you for being
Like
here.
you rightly mentioned, I am a freelance journalist and a gender advocate. So specifically, whenever I am asked about my journey, it's something that I directly relate to it because I was inspired to tell these stories, not because it's something that I see and then I see an icon that I feel maybe this is what I really want to do, but then the realities around me informed my decision of becoming a journalist, particularly, and then at the long run diversifying to become an aid worker. So actually these are things I have grown up in a very highly patriarchal society where women specifically are not given direct opportunities when it comes to resources, opportunities regarding education, leadership, and the rest, but then you can find them taking full household responsibility, of which to some extent their counterpart will even ask for it as if it is an entitlement. So that was actually what inspired me to start my journalism career, seeing that the stories of these women are not being spotlighted by mainstream media. So I specifically go into writing, seeing that there are platforms I identified which I see have interest in that, and then they can actually brought out the voices of these women. So this is partially what actually pushed me to this.
Being not a woman, and the stereotype that comes from being not a woman, how have you been able to manage to fill in these spaces?
It's actually very difficult. Like everybody will tell you that, but then once you have the support of some people, the type of people that you feel actually fit into or they share the same vision with you, these people can actually help you to actualize all these things that you would want to do. So having the support of family is one thing that I would always say has pushed me to keep up with everything that I've been doing, seeing that the orientation there is that you just try as much as you can, graduate from school, get married, and then settle down. So seeing that you will be coming, trying to engage people, you know how journalism works, trying to get secure interview with some people, following them to offices. Sometimes they will give you time, sometimes they will not. It was very difficult. And then, you know, I identify as a freelancer. It's not like I am attached to a specific media house.
Space.
So that one has made the whole thing to be a bit difficult for me. But then, just like I said, some platforms have interest in those things, so they make sure that they render support.
Combining journalism and being an aid worker,
Yeah.
how does this make you a step ahead from all the journalists?
Yeah, so with regards to that, there was a point, I think in 2023, that I secured a fellowship, and then I participated in that fellowship. It was 6 months extensive training for journalists, and then it happens after what we are to produce some stories. So just like you mentioned in my profile, I focused on gender. Specifically, I picked interest in reporting sexual and gender-based violence with that particular fellowship. So I followed the story of a young girl, a very, very young girl of about 6 to 7 years, who was repeatedly being raped by somebody in her neighborhood. So the whole thing, this whole things that transpired with the story of that young girl is just so disheartening, so disturbing, seeing that it didn't happen just once, it happens twice, but seeing that her parents were people that were displaced, and then they are just, it's just a host community that her parents get, and then they were staying there. So after following that story and seeing that I have tried my best, done all that I can after the story was published, took the story to some organizations that I know that are doing case management. Some of them pick interest, and then they were able to help her out to start, because she, unfortunately, she was suffering VVF. So they were able to help her out with regards to the health component of it. But then around the legal system, like I will always say, our legal system is very rigid, and then it's totally not in favor directly of survival. Seeing how rigid the whole thing is, there are evidences that they expect to get from the people of which these people, if you look at them, these are people that did not go to school, they have not been sensitized about all these things, they have no idea around it. So it's just very difficult for parents to get all these things. So we push for that, to see that she also gets support with regards to the, and in regards to the access to justice, but then it failed. So from that moment, because that thing even affected me to the extent that the editor that helped me to work on that story asked me to maybe stay away from reporting any traumatizing story for some time, so that I will not be translating it in everything that I report. So for some times we did that, but then from that moment I sat down and reflect that if at all I can do as a journalist is just to knock on such people's door and then get these stories, come and talk about it without actually getting them, helping them out like a real life. I only amplify the story because that story was cross-published across different media platforms, I think around 8 in the country and then some outside Nigeria. But then, so I felt like, then definitely I need to do something. What exactly is it? And then it happens there was an opportunity offered to me. So I just sat down and reflected that maybe I can actually help these women and girls better if I happen to be an aid worker.
That is such an emotional story. You know, journalism, most people see journalism as just telling story, but from this story, it shows that apart from, you know, telling the story, you want
can do advocacy.
Justice should be done to those victims. So at what point do you take the decision of not just storytelling, but getting justice for the victim?
Yeah, I think it was around 2024. Yes, that was 2 years back that I just decided that if truly I want to make this impact that I want. Maybe if at all is around sensitization, that I tell them this, whenever there is anything rape case, this is what you do, these are the steps you follow. At least I have supported in that component, because you can see the level at which the lack of awareness is affecting these people. So that was just how I pick it up and then started. Yeah.
So look at it, away from gender violence now, let's talk about women power and political representation.
Yeah.
You know, we're still struggling as a nation, having low female representation in policy and decision making. Why do you think the progress has been very slow? Because we've come a long way for us to still be at a spot.
Yeah, so in real life, we cannot even say there is any progress that we are making.
At all?
Yeah, because you can see everything can always be traced back to this cultural, societal norms, perceptions that are being coined around political participation. And then, you know, we cannot actually have this representation that we have in politics if at all our women at the grassroots level are not empowered enough to do leadership within their household, within their community. We always have a starting point for something, right? So we cannot say like just out of the blue that we will see women trying to contest for councillors while she cannot lead in her own home. So that's why I feel like being in the development space, working as an aid worker can actually help me if truly we truly want to push women to see all these things, to have this opportunity. They should be able to be empowered enough to demand for these things. And then without the knowledge of it, there is no way they can do that.
Do you think the problem is from the Nigerian system or from the level of interest we get from these women?
I believe this problem is not from the system directly, though the system too is contributing, seeing how the women who were able to like come out to show their interests are still struggling as well. So the system also contributes to it, but then from our society, looking at communities like ours, which we know we are deeply rooted in culture, tradition, and then there are social norms, perception. There are a lot of women that we engage, talk to them about all these things. Don't they have interest in contributing to their community, be participating in tables where decisions are being made within the communities? As simple as when taking an example with now somebody coming to a community and then saying, we want to dig a borehole, maybe to support this community with water, and then it will just be the decision around where exactly that borehole should be dug will be something that exclusively you'll see that it's only men that they will get to meet, because the first go-to person in communities is those community leaders, the traditional leaders, of which we know they are the custodians of all this our tradition and religion. So they will just sit down and then decide where they want that borehole to be dug, of which if at all there is a representation of any woman or youth, you know, they will definitely give their own perspective, their own contribution, seeing that they are the people that are going to get the water.
Of course.
Their children are the ones that are using this water, but then that decision will be made without them there. So as simple as that, we feel and we believe that if we push our women to start participating in such decision-making tables within their communities, then definitely that will help us to get the broader thing that we want to get of having those women developing interest in it. Because once you were able to break that that barrier of thinking that you are a woman, you cannot actually do this, and then you started by going out to participate in community meeting, and then they said somebody is coming, the local government chairman or the councillor of that ward is coming, definitely you will feel like if I can sit down with the Bulamas and the Meangwa to talk about these things, then definitely I can speak in front of that
Do you think there's a region that is
rest.
experiencing this more? Or is it the same for?
Maybe from my experiences, but then definitely I will tell you that in that Northeast, we have more of it. I cannot speak for other regions, seeing that I didn't maybe get the opportunity to experience how women are surviving in such communities.
So, Rukayat, we've had so many empowerments. Most of these empowerments are economic empowerment. But do you think economic empowerment can actually work without political empowerment?
Yeah, so about this, I believe that is why we are always like advocating or considering the fact that we would need to have that mindset shift. That's why we invest so much, like with the organization I'm working, we focus more on behavioral change, because we believe even if you are empowered, but then you don't feel the interest, you don't feel like your community, you are part of the people, like you take responsibility that some of these things that are happening in my community, I can actually contribute to it. So if we don't have such mindset, even if women are being empowered, they will not show interest in those things because they don't see the relevance. They feel like we have engaged in different dialogues, have different focus group discussions with women and men from different communities. And then you can, if you talk about politics directly, they will tell you that that one, maybe the men can do it for us. So they already believe.
This problem is also coming from the gender themselves?
Yes.
Not because they are being stopped?
Yes, how our communities are being structured, like the gender roles that we already established, what we grew up seeing, because you can see how directly, like you would be questioned, how people will point fingers at you whenever you try to do something that is not the normal way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think we've had a lot of conflict, displacement, and you've been at the forefront, you know, reporting this, telling story. So do you think conflict and displacement actually affect leadership opportunities for women?
It does. It does. Taking it as simple as our mental health is one thing, because a lot of our women now are suffering, a lot are already like have a very low self-esteem. They totally doesn't believe in themselves, and that's because of the level of poverty that we have in such region. The conflict has contributed a lot to, like it has contributed directly to the already existing terrible norms that we have, the already existing toxic perceptions around all these things. And then also it has contributed a lot to the level at which women feel like so confident to come out to say this is what exactly I want. A lot of women has already settled for manageable, like yes, they have settled for less. So that's it. The conflict has done like a lot. Yes, with regards
You've
to
talked
that.
about, you know, religious leader, traditional institution trying to make decision in places where women should be making the decision because they are more involved.
Yeah.
So, are you saying in this time and day, this 21st century, we've not had these people supporting gender inclusion?
Yeah, so with regards to that, you know, the reality of it may be different, but what exactly they are doing in the community can be something else. When you are out for interventions, you are out for outreach, and then you bring all these people in, you know, it's very difficult. I think we have mobilized around 50 religious and traditional leaders across 2 local government areas in Borno. And then it happens that there is only one woman that appears to be Bulama.
Okay.
Yes, just one, Bulama. You know, the thing is there is Bulama, there is Lawan, and then there is Hakimi, right? So it's only one woman that we got that was Bulama at that particular moment, of which we know is just something very difficult. We didn't get to ask her about how she gets to become one, because
is she even representing, or she is just there to show that she's actually a female that is allowed to take?
She is there. So the problem is that now, speaking about making decisions, these people will continue to make decisions for their communities. What we are even advocating for now is not for them, for us to have more representation of women in those roles, but then for them to be included when decisions will be made in those communities. So you can see we are we didn't even start. Like it's not like we have something that we are even building on. We are just starting from the scratch.
No, from the campaigns, do you think political parties are actually genuine with, gender inclusivity? Because, they mention it all the time, gender inclusivity. Are they really intentional about including women in taking position in the political space?
Yeah, to some extent we can say from the 2023 elections, I think in that Borno we have one councillor, like each, is it LGA? I don't know if I'm getting it right, but then that they have one representation of women, that maybe that will help or inspire others to come for it.
Rukaya, let me ask you now a direct question.
Yeah.
If you are given the opportunity to redesign one policy to improve women participation in governance, what would that be?
Yeah. For me, it's not that 35% too. It should be 50-50.
It should be 50-50?
Yeah.
What level do you think we are now?
Because looking at the whole thing, seeing that women, like we occupy about 50 or 40 something percent of Nigeria's population, and then we are taking only, just look at the representation, the whole thing is crazy. It's not like we have made any stride. It's not like we have pushed for something. The reserve seat, you have seen how women has been struggling to see that bill has been passed. Yes.
So let's move away from gender inclusivity now. Let's go to journalism, accountability. Let's talk about the public interest.
Okay.
Your reporting often touches on accountability.
Yeah.
To you, why do you think accountability journalism particularly important in fragile and conflict-affected regions?
Yeah. So just like I said, seeing that everything that I may be standing up to speak about women, bringing out their stories, all those traumatizing stories, their experiences with healthcare facilities, their experiences with lack of access to school, their experiences with lack of opportunities. Even when the opportunities are there at their doors within the community, you will hear a woman will actually be maybe the one that is taking care of that house. But whenever there is an opportunity, the man will be considered and the woman will be left out. So all those things are the things that actually push me to start maybe going for the accountability. Because when we speak about healthcare, specifically, if you look at almost most of the things that I have interest in are the primary health cares. Because those ones are the ones that actually our communities are accessing. They are the major healthcare providers that our communities, particularly women, children, have access to. This is what they are using, and then sometimes you will see the budgeting money being allocated to all those facilities, and then nobody is doing anything with it. People are actually struggling. Speaking about maternal care, and then you will come down to seeing that some facilities are still asking them for money, of which we know in the real sense is supposed to be something that should be free. As simple as the money for files that they would try to justify the money they are collecting. They will tell you that this is it. The money is for files and the rest. But then as simple as that 200 for a displaced woman, it's not just. It's not.
So as a journalist, how can we begin to balance humanitarian, the sensitivity aspect with the responsibility to hold institutions accountable?
Yeah, so it's not always that you getting the human angle stories. We know is very important. You can take a very sensitive story, but then you should be able to you should be professional enough to tell it in a very dignified way without them like presenting the person as vulnerable as that. And then you can do the accountability component of it, because that one we have seen, maybe not directly through me, but we have seen situations whereby such report has prompted actions in schools, in the healthcare facilities. It has led to the investigation of maybe health workers and the rest. So these are things that I feel is very important when we have the interests of our communities at heart, and then being intentional about the type of things that we report, because it's very important that you do it with purpose. Sometimes most people will go for the name. They just do it to have publications. Some will do it for the money that is involved, particularly if some of us, some people that have access to international media platform, they just tell these stories for the sake of telling them and then getting the money.
Yeah.
But then if you have the interests of the communities at heart, then definitely if you do, sometimes you engage in follow-ups. What happened afterwards? You ask those questions. Maybe you take it from another angle. There are situations, there are journalists that I've seen who has taken one storyline but have brought it in different angle.
Yeah.
So in case that the first one that you did not work, at least you are trying to tell the world that this is what is happening in this place. Sometimes the government may not know as well. We don't always blame the government because we cannot say the state government should know what exactly is happening in that particular remote community. When the allocations
but do you think the state's government shouldn't know? Don't you think they're saddled with the responsibility of getting to the grassroots?
Yes, they are saddled, but they have agencies. They have departments, they have ministries. So it is expected that those ministries, sometimes the lapses may come from just one head. Sometimes the problem will come from just one person or two or one department that just decide that actually doesn't have the interest of people at heart. Yeah.
You know, we've also experienced in journalism, we've experienced misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah.
So how have these also affected conflict-related storytelling?
Yeah, so with regards to that, I think there are a lot of narrations. That's why when the idea of solution journalism came in, a lot of people, particularly from northern part or to say northeast, are very interested in it, seeing how the narrations around the whole conflict has been over the years, and then progress or successes, achievements, certain things that have changed are not being painted. So it continues to mislead people about the terrible maybe situation of that particular region. But then there are a lot of things that we have witnessed that we know these are improvements, these are things that should be spotlighted. Our children are not all Almajiris, you know. So, but then whenever northern Nigeria is being mentioned, or maybe the northeast, all they see is that we are all displaced people. Yes, we may be displaced people, but then it's not as bad as it is. And then sometimes some narrations you will find out that, particularly now that a lot of people have piqued interest in content creation, there are a lot of narrations that you would have. I think there was this a training that I attended, of which specifically the focus is to counter this misinformation around healthcare, particularly issues around, because you know there is this perceptions that goes around family planning issue and how people see it from religious perspective, and the rest. So all these things are there, but then with good storytelling, and then if we are being intentional, looking at our specific problems, looking at communities' unique problem. Our communities may have problems. We know if we speak about poverty now, we can say all the people that have been displaced are suffering and the rest.
Thank you so much, Rukayat. You know, we'll be going on a break, a short break now. We'll be talking about journalism, accountability, public interest, gender inclusion, political participation of women. It's been a deep and relatable conversation. We'll be coming back after a short break and be continuing from where we started. Welcome back from that break, and it's still S24 Television Insight with Rukaya. We've been talking about journalism, accountability, and women inclusion in political space. So, Rukaya, from where we started, we were talking about, you know, disinformation and misinformation. Let's go into the responsibility of journalists. For someone who has been, you know, a veteran freelance journalist reporting conflict-related issues, enlighten us on the responsibility of journalists when it comes to reporting stories involving displaced persons, survivors, or vulnerable populations.
Yeah, so with regards to this responsibility, I think all journalists have a very huge responsibility on them, seeing that they are the ones that will go and then bring these informations out, and then, you know, you have no idea when you post something as simple as your social media platform where it will go. Talk more of your media organization getting to publish it. You have no idea where that information is going. So sometimes how you paint the people, you have the responsibility of protecting these people. Sometimes it can be survivors, as simple as somebody that is being displaced. It should be with their consent that you would sometimes take their story and paint it in a particular angle. There are instances whereby I noticed some things while on the field. You would go for an interview to a camp specifically, and then, you know, we cannot take away expectations from these people. Whenever they see you as an outsider and then you come trying to ask them questions, all they will be thinking is that maybe you will be bringing support. So as a reporter, what I think is best for you to do is that try as much as you can, make it clear that you are just trying to take the story. Because sometimes they will give out informations that are not even there. They will just try to give you what you want to hear, because the expectation is that maybe you will be supporting them. So it's your responsibility to make sure that all these things are clear, well understood. When you take consent of people, particularly if you are talking about children, you are talking about women, you are talking about survivors specifically, you should try as much as you can to see that the consent you will take is not just normal consent. It should be an informed one. Make it clear, give an explanation. Aside you coming with a form that they cannot even use, write, fill it themselves, you will be the one to help them to fill out. As simple as that, they are signing that they are giving you. Try as much as you can. That's why sometimes we encourage the use of fixers. So for somebody like me, I know whenever I try to work in the community, seeing that maybe I'm not fluently hearing Kanuri language, I try to get somebody to help me out with that. Though a third party is always very difficult if you're not careful. Sometimes there will be mix-up and rest. But then that is about you being intentional to make sure that they get exactly what you want from them, and then what they are saying, you don't get to misinterpret them and rest. So we have, I think, a lot of responsibility of protecting the people that we tell our stories, of to make sure that we paint them in a dignified way. Sometimes the vulnerability is not what will actually catch the attention. Sometimes we know as journalists, we try to embellish our stories to be so compelling to capture the attention of people, but then let the substance be there. As much as you can do your polishing, let the facts remain. Yeah.
So, you know, it seems there's a gap, if you agree with me, with Northern Stories reportage and the people who are telling the story. We don't really have a lot of people telling Northern Stories. So because of that, they get to tell it in the wrong way. What would you say about this gap?
That gap is actually a problem, I can say, to some extent, because some people are not actually being careful. Just like you have said, they are just trying to stretch their hands to get those stories. Sometimes they can try to, like, just a phone call to get somebody to link them up with someone to tell them what exactly happened. Sometimes the people that you reach, if it's not a very credible person, he can just get somebody somewhere and say this person is looking for someone to talk to about what happened. So I want you to stand in to say that you are from that community, and then you can. We cannot just undermine what exactly people can do for the sake of money. And then especially when money is involved. Sometimes you would be in Lagos and then you just call somebody in Maiduguri that you want to speak to somebody from Bama who you need contact. And then all that person can do is that, where can I get the contact of somebody from Bama? What they can do, people can actually be desperate, especially if you try to, maybe you are giving them stipend. Nobody can, sometimes the linkage, if it's not around your cycles of reporters, it's not always that you can get somebody so credible that the person will try his best to verify that, yes, actually this person is coming from that community, to be sure that this is exactly what happened. I have seen situations whereby somebody will contact me, will call me, maybe from this Abuja, or something has happened in Maiduguri, so can you help me with this interview and the rest. Moment you start saying maybe you are engaged in something, they will start asking, can you link me up with somebody that can help me out? So the person that you think can actually go and do that, sometimes someone will be seated in the corners of his room, type this thing and send it to you. And then there are situations whereby I know maybe the people that I'm working with are people that are familiar with the things that I do in the community, but then somebody will ask me to do interviews for him, get them some responses. I will do that, and all they can say is that, so I don't understand the language that they are speaking in, so just help me transcribe. You do this transcription and share it with them. They will not ask you to share the recordings from the interview. So what if I just sat down and then write everything? So these are things that maybe people who are reporting from outside should be paying attention to, particularly when you hear about there is bombalas in Borno. A lot of responses, a lot of people that we quote in those stories, me, sometimes I'm confident those people doesn't exist.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't.
So you think they're just imaginary characters just to fit in the story?
Sometimes. And maybe it cannot be from the reporter directly, but from the people they are contacting. If they are not credible people that you are not sure that they can actually go to the field and get these things for you, it's not everybody that you collect information from and then put it out there for people.
So, Rukaya, let's move away from you being a journalist now, because it's like you're now on the table, you're part of the decision maker. Let's talk about the governance, let's talk about development and the politics of inclusion. As someone involved in stakeholder engagement and program management, what is the biggest disconnect between the policy design and the community realities?
Okay, so we can say to some extent from the angle of the policies, sometimes they are not being followed up to be properly implemented. From the community's perspective, we can directly say that people are not aware that those policies do exist, and then the policies are there to serve them, or it's been created to ensure their welfares in the communities. There are different scenarios, different instances whereby you would try to engage women or in the community, or sometimes these stakeholders from the community, particularly community structures, because when you outline community community stakeholders, definitely is these structures that we have of religious leaders, traditional leaders, youth leaders, women leaders, and rest. So you try to engage them, and then you see, as simple as, or with the level of noise that people from the NGO space has made about the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, a lot of them, a lot of the stakeholders doesn't actually know what the VAPLO is talking about. A lot of the women who we think that directly these things is for their own benefit, because we consider the women as the most vulnerable. We know the VAPLO is not there only for women, but then they are the most people that have been affected by it, or some things that may relate to it. You'll find out that they don't actually know. There are a lot of engagement that will happen. There are a lot of meetings that will happen. You engage them in different dialogues, but maybe sometimes we are not being intentional about ensuring that they understand these things very well.
But why do you think most of these development intervention, they actually struggle? Why do you think they struggle to achieve lasting impact?
Yeah, so just as it is, sometimes most of our people who do this work for the sake of we have implemented it. but not everybody is intentional about the impact. The outcomes, you can state it, you can have it, everything on your design during the design phase. And the inception phase, you can say that this is what you are looking forward to achieving and the rest. But then not everybody is actually intentional about ensuring that these things truly impacted these people. It may be around just striving to get numbers, striving to get 1 or 2 stories to pen out, submit reports to donors and the rest. So I think that particular aspect, when it comes to the people working in the development space, it can actually be a factor.
But from your own experience now, what do you think are the most urgent governance issues that are affecting women and girls today?
Yeah, so just like it is, intentionality is one thing. If you truly want to get women involved, if they are intentional about it, definitely we will see that maybe we try to change some ways of how these things are being done. As simple as communities, local governments, simple words, units in the communities, you will find out that meetings will not start for politics until 1 p.m., 1 a.m. in the night sometimes. So how can a woman go and participate in a meeting that you schedule for 12 a.m., 1 a.m.? It's not possible. So the space is actually not in favor of women. And then sometimes, just like I mentioned earlier, the negative perception, the stereotype attached to politics is one thing. If we are not intentional about maybe positioning some women to come and showcase themselves as example, to show that actually what we think of politics is not actually like that. But then the stereotype around, maybe if we see you today participating, or Rukaya has diversified from being an aid worker to start politics, then definitely maybe she have reached the peak of that.
People will begin to see you in a different
way, in a different image. You are not decent. There is nothing you can do to convince them that you are a decent person. So that's it. I think these are things that maybe the government, the structures that exist in the community, we must always start from the grassroots. There is nothing government can come from up and do to us in our communities, actually. So I think if we improve at the local level, then definitely it will influence what is happening up there.
You know, our focus is on women and children. So let's move to, you know, the youths, their education and social mobility. It's because education remains one of your reporting interests, really. So do you believe Nigeria's education system is adequately preparing young people for the future? Or we are just going back and forth through, you know, a routine that is not actualizing?
It is just, we cannot say that if you push, you cannot actually be what you want to be, but then we know it's very difficult. And then looking at the orientations that we may have at across different schools, and then when enrolled in the school, the purpose, or maybe being deliberate around ensuring that we equip these people not only with theories, but then we ensure that they can be relevant to industries as well. So these are things that specifically for somebody who's studied mass communication, I think I have noticed that if you are not deliberate, and then if the things that they come to classes make examples for you around, if you do not push yourself to test it, you can be stagnant, like you will just be there with the theories. So actually, we cannot say the system is not working. For the academics, they are doing their best. Academics
Do you think
in Nigeria,
we're doing our best enough?
They are, they are, because with the level at which, the level of engagement, you will be enrolled from year 1 to that maybe your 4th year or 5th year in the university. They will be there exclusively, and we have seen how if you have shown interest, how they would try to push you. I have seen situations whereby you started from the classroom and then maybe that a lecturer or somebody will look at what you are doing, since that you have some values in you. If you push, we have seen different situations whereby you graduated from the department and then immediately, if they have opportunities, you come in as GA or something. That has happened in different cases. So I think the system, we cannot say is not, but then we need more practicals to make us relevant to the industry, because somebody will graduate now a mass communication department, but then if you put them in the newsroom to maybe sit down, interview people just like you are doing now, the person cannot actually sit down and do it. If you ask them to write reports, they will be shunning away. They will be telling you directly that they don't actually want to write. So being somebody that studied, that's it. They just read and then graduate from the school and then they just have the grade. That's it. So I think the purpose shouldn't be something that somebody will come and design for us. We should be intentional about ourselves as well, and then what we want, and we push.
You know, when you talk about educational challenges, it is not enough if you don't bring the unique challenges the conflict communities are facing. So for the conflict-related communities, what are the challenges when it comes to education?
There are a lot of challenges, I think, from the elementary component, specifically basic education, because we cannot be talking about tertiary institution without the basic education, of which we know, particularly for states like Borno State, we have witnessed an interruption in the entire education system for several years, where there are different local governments that children are not going to school for about 5-6 years. There are situations whereby you see a child that has been displaced. For example, now somebody displaced from Kondiga, and the person will tell you, if today you go to such IDP community and engage with them, they will tell you that they have been in that camp for about 11 years or so. And then there was no, there is actually no access to school. They are not going to school. They will just be there. So children like that, maybe around a person that is being displaced around 2010 to back 2012 to 13, that child, even if it was that time that they gave birth to him, he's around 14 years now, and then he didn't get the opportunity to be in school. So these are those things. We know the government are trying in terms of getting the structures, in terms of enrollment, but then there are barriers that continues to remain. You can see to some extent there are specific instances whereby we implement about 18-month projects specifically about a specific barrier that we feel this thing is affecting education system.
You know, I would have loved to continue this conversation, but we have to move to a last segment for us to round up. And this is to ease the tension of the deep conversation about the failures in our conflict-related issues. This is the rapid fire. I've been looking up to it, where you are given the opportunity to answer just one question. So quickly, journalism or activism?
Journalism.
Are you sure it's not activism?
If you could have said advocacy,
journalism or activism?
I could have picked advocacy, not activism, actually.
So you're picking journalism?
Yeah.
Okay, representation or tokenism?
Representation.
Okay. Policy promises or policy implementation?
Policy implementation.
Okay. Inclusion or political convenience?
Inclusion.
Education or empowerment?
Education.
Community voices or elite narrative?
Community voices.
Nigeria's biggest governance challenges?
Failed policies.
Okay, so what's the one issue affecting women that deserve more attention?
Lack of economic empowerment.
Okay. One reform government should prioritize immediately?
Maybe paying more attention to their empowerment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So finally, let's finish this sentence. A more inclusive Nigeria begins with what?
With me and you.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. I wasn't expecting that last answer.
Yeah.
Rukayat Idris, thank you so much for joining us on S24 Insight. Today's conversation reminds us that inclusion is not charity. It is governance, it is democracy, it is development, and it is accountability. The stories emerging from communities affected by conflict, displacement, and inequality are not peripheral stories. They are national stories. A country cannot claim progress while large segments of its population remain unheard. A democracy cannot thrive when women remain underrepresented in decision-making. A government also cannot earn trust without accountability, and a society cannot build lasting peace without ensuring that those most affected by challenges are part of shaping solution. Rukayat Idris' works reminds us that journalism is more than reporting events. It is documenting realities, it is challenging power, it is amplifying voices, and it is helping citizens see the connection between policy decisions and everyday life. So today we'll leave you with this question. If the people most affected by public policies are not involved in shaping them, can governance ever truly be inclusive? I am Zainab Ibrahim, and this is S24 Insight. Bye for now.